They're gonna be like, why is he crying? And then the rest of the show, I'm not. No, that's pretty funny.
You know what the fuck I do?
Welcome to DreamHack Tonight, Indie Heartbeat Edition. Today, we have JW, part of the superstar developer team of Disc Room. Disc Room came out not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and it is phenomenally good in such a frustrating way that you should be playing it. The response has actually been great. The critical reviews. It's just, it'll make you so angry, but you just want to keep coming back. I think we have a clip from it right here. That was Disc Room. Again, a rage-inducing game. And let's welcome JW. Hey, JW, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Disc Room. A fun game. You know, when you look at it, you're like, how did someone not think of this sooner? And it absolutely is rage-inducing in terms of just that one more time feeling, right? That's the whole game loop mechanic, the whole one more time. So where'd you come up with the idea though? Because on the layer, it's such a simple thing to think of like, oh my God, a bunch of discs in a room. So how did that idea just happen to come along?
So I think the four of us, I made it together with Kitty Callis, Dose One, and Terry Bellman. We wanted to make something that was kind of deceptively simple. And like you said, like discs in a room is almost the most basic you can take a video game. It's just the enemies are just bouncing around and you dodge them and you don't die. And we wanted to see if we could take that core and turn it into something big and mysterious and exciting that kind of kept you captivated for that kind of one more game. While you explore kind of a sprawling sci-fi space. You know, it's also like a love letter to a lot of sci-fi from the 70s and stuff that we're all super big fans of. So we started out with this challenge, you know, how do we take something really simple and make it into a fun game, and just went for it, you know, we went wild, and the result is Disc Room.
So, I mean, I used to play tons of these type of games, and Disc Room got me actually back into them. I love the Devolver guys, and it doesn't surprise me that they did this game at all. So I played Super Meat Boy. I played VVVV. I don't even know how many V's there are, but you know what I mean. I forget. So were a lot of those kind of games your influences? You know what I mean? Because I remember how many hours I sunk into those games, and literally the one more time feeling of a game that should be over in like 30 minutes, but took me like 30 hours because it was that kind of rage inducing. Were those some of your influences from Disc Room?
Yeah, for sure. So Disc Room is kind of a blend between those kinds of games and maybe a shoot 'em up or a bullet hell game in the core gameplay, where we took kind of the instant restart from a game like Super Meat Boy or VVV was also a big influence. And then, but it's not muscle memory, right? It's not a fixed level. You're not remembering how the discs are going to bounce. Instead, you need to react. So that kind of mixes it up from there. And then also, like VVV has kind of this open world that you're exploring, and that's kind of similar in a way. And like you said at first, like it's kind of weird that not many people have made a game like this before because it's such a obvious concept in a way. But we just found a nice blend that worked, I think. And you know, there's so many difficult games out there, so there's a lot of good kind of game design practices that we don't want to waste anyone's time. You're not surviving for 2 minutes in a room where the first minute and a half is easy and boring. You know, we start you right at the end. It's difficult right from the start, and you have to survive only 10 seconds. That's kind of what we're going for. You know, no time waster. You're just instantly thrown into a room full of saw blades.
Yeah, well, it gives people, I guess, time if they get so pissed off and raged that they can get the refund right away, right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, you can give it a try for an hour or so,
Yeah.
and if you're too angry, just get a refund. Like,
Yeah.
we're totally fine with that.
Don't do that. No. What you got? But I'm also a huge fan of cave games, bullet hell types. And then we were talking about I Want to Be the Guy, one of the originals, to kind of
Yeah.
take you to this level and stress you out and challenge you in the same way that it's rewarding. What was it like kind of adding the like top down puzzle dungeon aspect? Kind of reminds me of Zelda, the original Zelda, moving from room to room. Like you could have just made it simple and just done the same room over and over, different challenges, but you kind of added with the map and the different, areas. How did that how did that happen?
So I think if you make something really simple, you need to kind of layer it a little bit to keep it interesting. So there's this kind of big mystery, overarching mystery in this room that you're trying to figure out as the main character, as the scientist who's exploring this spaceship. And then, there's leaderboards. So in every room you can play against your friend. And also every room kind of has different goals. So there's locked doors and they might say survive for 10 seconds or something simple, but very quickly it gets kind of weird and cryptic, where it might say die from 10 different disk types. So actually you're going around the rooms trying to die from each different disk. And I think by kind of putting it together in that way, it becomes more than the sum of its part. And it's a game that kind of stays interesting throughout, because we could just have done rooms with high scores and like levels, but exploration is a big part of that feeling of the sci-fi movies that we love, like you're arriving in a strange space and you don't know what's going on. And, what's better than capturing that in the gameplay too, right? So
Right.
I think it was just the way to go. If we wouldn't have done it, the game might not have been as interesting, right?
Right. And then also, I'm sure you had stages that didn't make it in that were just like, this is impossible. When it comes to a developer that makes something like this, like I know I worked with a development team before, and just like some people that are the artists that create these games, they can't beat their own games sometimes. Did you have to like kind of bring someone in to like test these, be like, hey, if you can't pass this, there's no hope for anybody else? Like, what was that like amongst your team creating this and making a stage harder than the last?
So I think we all four of us played the game kind of casually. Like we never tried too hard, because if you're making a difficult game, it's very easy to get used to it. And I've played the game for hundreds of hours, just debugging stuff, and I don't want the difficulty to be for me. It should be for someone who've only played it for 2 hours, who's just getting started. So we definitely kept it into account that our own skills are not a good measure at all. And also seeing players play now, people are like, there's speed runs going on right now where people are beating the game in under 10 minutes, like there's some incredible skills out there, and people using strategies and tactics that we had never expected. So it's kind of both spectrums, right? Where you're great at the game as a developer just because you've played so much, but also there will always be someone who completely destroys you. And to be honest, like there's really nice difficulty settings in the game. You can slow down the game speed. You can unlock whole rooms for the menu. Like we don't care about that. We want everybody to have fun at their own pace. But honestly, like some of the toughest challenge in the game, I'm just using difficulty settings. Like, turn it down a bit. Let's see if it's possible. It's possible. All right, someone is gonna figure it out. So that's been really useful.
That's good insight. Yeah.
So for this game, I mean, you didn't go through the normal kind of like, for example, you have beer, you have the developer teams that are usually set, right? But for this game, it was like just a bunch of devs with some serious great experience that just got into one room and said, hey, let's make a game. You have Terry from, Heavy Bullets and High Hell. You have Dose from Enter the Gungeon and Gang Beasts. You have Kitty from Action Hank and Horizon, and then you have you with Nuclear Throne, Ridiculous Fishing, and you don't have your studio. It's not like you're a studio name together. So it's literally the credits are your names. So how did you guys all just sit in a room and decide to do this collab?
I love working this way. Like often in game dev, it doesn't feel like games are made by people, but they totally are. It's just
Right.
like 4 people with laptops working from home and collaborating and getting this stuff done. And we kind of want to show that to the world. And at the same time, also very often in games, one person gets the credit for the whole game, and usually it's like the studio head or something, and we just wanted to say like, no, like there's not some PR person in front of this whole thing. It's Kitty, Dose, Terry, and JW. It's all four of us. We made this game, and deal with it. Like say all four names. That's not our problem now. And we did the same thing for Minute, which was JW, Kitty, Dom, and Yukio, 4 people, small team, and it felt really, really good and really nice. So for me personally, I'm really interested in working like this, just a collaboration between 4 people who all add their individual voices to the game. Like if one of us was a different person, the game would have been completely different. And it just feels like a kind of the way forward for the future, for me at least. Like I love working like this.
Yeah, I mean, and with COVID this year, right? I'd imagine there might have been delays, but having such a good small team, it probably helped a little bit with less distractions from the outside world, being at home and working on this game. Was it meant to come out in October? Did COVID have any delays? Like, how long did the game take to put together?
I think we always kind of worked as like, all right, it's done when it's done. We're not going to announce the release date before, we've been through certification and the game, the game is ready. We're certain. We don't want to, have to announce it and then delay it. It took us about under a year and a half to make, so I think it was quite fast for such a small team. And obviously COVID had a big impact. We did all work from home, but the world kind of changes. And we actually showed the game at PAX East in February, which is like the last games event in history. And it was the only time that the whole team got together because, Kitty and I are in the Netherlands, Dose is in the States, and Terry is in Brazil. And we all came to PAX, we sat together, we talked out the whole story, all the last little details of the game we wanted to figure out. And then we went home and suddenly, everything changed and COVID happened. So it was like kind of the last games event in history accidentally helped us out. Like we all got to meet face to face and figure out the things. And then when the lockdowns and everything went down, we kind of had a very clear view of what we needed to do. And it was kind of nice to have a project to just dive into and work and keep yourself distracted and get this game done. And finishing it from that point on was just kind of smooth. Normally the last part is the hardest for game dev, but for us it was just like the middle, and we all met and we figured it out, and now the game's out. It was really nice actually.
It's probably a good way to come off too, right? Because you all got to meet and have good vibes together, right? And then you also, I mean, from what I remember, you also had some great write-ups. You know what I mean? A lot of people, the response for Discrum during that PAX was really well received. I mean, I saw some articles that were saying Discrum was my favorite of PAX and et cetera. Like, so coming off of that and the good vibes, I'm sure helped the last 6 months, 7 months of development.
Yeah, totally. And just seeing people play the game, right? We had a demo there, and that's priceless. Like after this moment, we couldn't do playtests in person anymore. Right. You literally couldn't watch a person play your game. And the reception was absolutely amazing because I do think it's a game that you kind of need to play to get, right? Because if someone tells you, oh, it's discs in rooms, everybody's like, oh, I've already seen that before, or whatever. I'm not that interested. But then if you play it, if you hold the game in your hands, you get it, like it's the kind of game that drags you into the zone. So
it's
totally
Pong,
like this.
Pong meets Super Meat Boy. There you go.
Well, we'll put that on the back of the box.
So one thing in regards to, you mentioned Minute earlier. You and Kitty have worked together before in Minute, and Minute was fantastic. It was frustrating in a whole different other way. Like it was a mechanic of you die in 60 seconds, it doesn't matter, and a guy that's like a completionist like me, dying in 60 seconds before I get to do my OCD stuff, it drove me nuts. I'm not, what did you and Kitty plan to hope to bring to the next level in Discrum? Because you guys had good success with Minute and it was really well received. So how did you want Discrum to be that next tier?
So we wanted to make a game where you die every 6 seconds instead. So I think actually, like, there's a lot of similarities between Minute and Discrum, even though they seem like very different types of games. But it's kind of a similar scope where it's a game that doesn't really outstay its welcome. There's a lot to dig into if you're a completionist or something. But or if you like high scores. But it's also a game where you can just play through it in one night and have a really good time and be done with normal mode and be like, all right, I'm not touching the hard levels. I'm cool. And I think making games that kind of do that is kind of important, because it's very often kind of, from a business perspective, you want to make games that people play for hundreds and hundreds of hours, but that's not always kind of the nicest thing to do from like an ethical standpoint, or like even like just creating a cool game, right? Often games get kind of worse if you stretch them out. So we just want to make really nice focused packages, and both Minute and Discrim are like different expressions of that.
Well, that leads me into the obligatory last question in regards to what you got to ask, right? And, I'm a fan of your work. I think it's been, from Vlambeer to Minute to, Discrim. I mean, you've put out some quality stuff. So what's next? What's next post Vlambeer? What's next post Discrim? Because not too long ago, Vlambeer obviously parted ways amicably, and so what's next for you or your team ups,
So I am really into this idea of just kind of making games with small teams in a nice, sustainable way. Like, we don't crunch, nothing like that. And the nice thing about making games, it takes like a year and a half, and in that year and a half, you get so many more ideas for different things. So I definitely have like a whole bucket list of things I want to try out. Like, nothing that we've started working on yet or anything, but I don't know, like, hopefully every few years I can work with a cool small team and drop something like Minute or Discrim. I'd be happy until I'm old, like that's what I hope for.
When is there going to be a Discrim level in Fall Guys where the saws just come in cutting off all their heads instead of eliminating them?
Or we should start a petition for that.
Yeah, I'd imagine, the success of that game, just the crossovers they're trying to do and all that stuff. But JW, I'm actually excited to try this. I'm going to stream this week and enjoy it because I love a challenge. But thank you so much, JW. Any last things you want to say about the game or what's going on?
Yeah, like, if anyone here even remotely likes kind of challenging, interesting games that seem really simple but actually totally mix things up, give Discrim a chance. If you get angry within 30 minutes, like, do that really fun thing. I don't care. But totally, like, I think Discrim is a game that's kind of for everyone who loves sci-fi or getting cut to bits by saw blades. So, it's fun for the whole family.
I'm angry within the first 10 minutes of even working with Alex, and I wish I could get a refund on him. But
you should try the confetti blood setting. Maybe it will help.
If you cut Justin, protein powder comes out. Well, JW, thank you so much. I appreciate our guest, Discrim. It's on Steam and Nintendo Switch right now. Thank you again, guys, to our viewers. Up next will be DH Plays. Please check that out. Also, as always, like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks to our sponsors, Simply Nook, Blue Microphone, and Astro. We appreciate you very much. And JW, thank you for your time, man. Keep up the great work. Big fan. I love it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Thanks for being here.